Yeah, well, it's been a busy few months for you. Of course, state legislature is in full swing, going to end sometime this month. First of all, let's talk about some bills that are going through the legislature right now, especially D.U.I. ones that were kind of, I guess, a lot of gray areas that they're trying to cinch up a little bit. This, first of all, talk about the D.U.I. laws.
Yeah, there's a big D.U.I. bill, Senate Bill 65. It's made its way through the Senate, and it's over in the House. But it is a complete overhaul of the D.U.I. laws in our state. It just, one thing it does is it makes the law easier to understand, whether you're a layperson reading it or a lawyer trying to put it into practice. It clarifies some penalties. It allows for the treatment courts and some expansion of that. There is just a lot of positive things about it that I think it's a long time coming. There's also go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, there's also the County Attorney Association bill, which I'm part of, which is kind of a component of that. We decided about a year and a half ago to do an increased penalty bill for repeat felony DUI offenders, and it is it's still over, I believe, in the House, but it got out at committee. Judiciary Committee in the House, and it's looking good.
Somebody asked me this yesterday, so I'll go right to the source right now. When you get a DUI, first one, is that just a misdemeanor, but how many do you have to get when it finally becomes a felony?
Well, you have to have 4 in Montana. So your 4th is a felony, and then everyone after that is a felony, and that you look back in a person's lifetime. However, after the last legislative session, we have an expungement law. So if you get one of your first expunged, technically it could be your 5th becomes a felony. So
isn't there no statute of limitations on that? I've never got a DUI, thank God for that. But if I got one at when I was 18, now I'm 59, isn't there kind of a statute of limitations there?
Well, there is. We have a 10-year look-back provision on the early DUIs, but once you accumulate so many to get to your felony level, whether that's 4 or 5, it's a lifetime look-back. So you get I guess you could say a statute of limitations on your lower misdemeanors for a period of time, but keep accumulating them, they can go all the way back and count those convictions.
So when you see these people, get their first, it's, not a good thing when you get it, but, if you clean up your act, everything's good. But when you get these people that get 8, 9 of them, when does a judge kind of say, hey, you're not going to the Yellowstone County Detention Facility, you're going to Deer Lodge? What's that threshold, do you think, for a judge?
Well, it's the accumulation of DUIs and other crimes. Certainly, they don't stop this criminal behavior. But it's interesting because that's why we introduced that penalty bill this legislative session, because technically your 4th, a felony, has a greater penalty than your 5th or subsequent. So Montana had kind of an unintended consequence in the 2017 legislature where they did away with kind of the longer sentence for someone who accumulates 8 or 9 DUIs, as you say.
I was talking with Chief St. John yesterday because the 2018 stats came out. Some areas are up, some were down, but victim crimes, because of that strangulation law that went into effect, was that in 2018? Numbers are up a little bit?
Yeah, that actually went into effect July of 2017. It made it a felony, and rightfully so. But it put a burden on my office to charge those cases, and so we work very closely with the Billings Police Department on those domestic strangulation cases. They have added the number of crimes as they report felonies for BPD, but the good thing is, I can tell you, we're working really well with BPD. It's always a pleasure to work with the chief, and I think we're going to get a grant that's going to put another domestic investigator or a domestic violence investigation team on the ground here in Billings. So that's good news for us that we have that kind of resource.
And talking a little bit about the stats that the chief came out with yesterday, calls are down about 1% compared to 2017. Property crimes are down because the Billings Police Department put on a special force and everything like that. So that sort of crimes are down. But like myself and yourself, stuff we always talk about, drugs, that's up. Drug violations are up in the city of Billings.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate news of the city's numbers. The street crimes unit is a proactive unit that's working really well to try to tackle the problems with theft. Oftentimes we see it as vehicle theft, and they've done a good job, and I think that's probably part of the reason why property crimes are down.
So when this legislative session gets all said and done, how do you think the county attorneys are going to be doing, with getting some of the bills that they want to have go through this legislature, with the D.U.I. and some other ones?
We're doing okay. We had 4 primary bills. One was to provide for victim service funding. That unfortunately was tabled in the Senate. But our DUI bill is still alive. Our Jessica's Law increased penalties for child sex offenders. And there's a study bill still going on diversion programs to keep those low-level drug offenders out of the criminal justice system. So we're doing okay.
Well, we were both at a press conference a couple of Mondays ago. Of course, the double homicide back in 1973 of the Bernhardts, that was solved. And you spoke a little bit at that press conference. Talk to us about your thoughts on that.
Well, I was just very appreciative of the volunteers at the cold case unit that they don't let those cases go. And I think it's important for victims, it's important for victims' families, that they put in the work and continue to use new technologies like the DNA technology that they explained at that press conference to try to find out who did these crimes back in the day.